Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Diana Robinson. I'm the Family Training and Empowerment Specialist at ACMH, the Association for Children's Mental Health. I also coordinate our Parent Advisory Committee, or PAC, and I'll share more about that later in the session. I'm not just here as a facilitator, but also as a parent who has walked this journey, navigating complex systems, pushing for support, and advocating for my son's mental health. Whether you're here as a parent, a caregiver, grandparent, professional, or someone advocating for yourself, I want you to know you belong here. Today is our final session in the Parent Leadership Webinar Series, Amplify Your Voice. Over the past 3 sessions, we've explored advocacy foundations, self-advocacy, and communication. This final session focuses on collaborative advocacy and navigating systems and building partnerships with confidence and clarity. We are excited to be joined today by members of both our Parent Advisory Committee and our Youth Advisory Committee. I believe we do have one of our panelists, one of our presenters, our guest today, Gloria. She's a PAC member, and we also have Courtney here, Courtney Stillman here. She's a Parent Advisory Committee member. And I'm not seeing our Youth Advisory Committee member yet, but she should be joining us soon. 2 incredible groups of advocates who use their lived experience to shape systems and elevate youth and family voice across Michigan. So, to help us get to know who's in the room, please feel free to take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat. You can share your name, your role or title, and where you're joining us from. And while you're doing that, I want to invite you to continue using the chat throughout today's session. Whether you have questions, thoughts, or reflections as we go, anything that comes up, we want to hear from you. We're also honored to welcome our 2 incredible parent leaders today. Melissa Snyder, a parent support partner with Integrated Services of Kalamazoo, who's returning from session 2 to share more about empowering caregivers and navigating systems with resilience. Gloria Treviño, she's a member of our Parent Advisory Committee. She's also a parent mentor with the Family Center for Children and Youth with Special Health Care Needs. She also serves on the board of the Michigan Advocacy Program and founded TheraPlay Yoga. She supports individuals and families impacted by disability, trauma, and chronic stress. I know their stories and strategies will inspire and energize you. So again, welcome and thank you for showing up, for leading, and for using your voice. And I see we have folks in the chat saying hello and introducing themselves. Thank you so much. We want to keep the conversation going. So of course, we need to cover some housekeeping and information so that everything runs smoothly. We are recording today's session. We will edit to protect participant privacy. All of this will be shared with you afterward. We'll also send out the slides and any additional resources mentioned today, so you'll have everything in one place. And if you'd like a certificate of completion for attending today's session, just send me a quick email after we wrap up and I'll be happy to get that to you. I've also muted everyone just to minimize any background noise, but we really want you to stay engaged. So again, feel free to use the chat to share your thoughts and ask questions. This is really meant to be interactive and supportive. So finally, I want you to know we have saved time at the end of the session for Q&A. So jot down any questions as we go. We'll make space for them before we close. So before we dive in, let's keep the chat going. We'd love to hear from you. We've got a quick chat warm up to get us all thinking. In chat, feel free to share What's one word that comes to mind when you think about navigating the system? What's one word that comes to mind when you think about navigating the system? I know for me, it feels very overwhelming and complex and exhausting. Thank you, Gloria. Exhausting. Availability, Tiffany, thank you for adding that. That's right. Courtney, resonates with the exhausting piece. Brianna says advocacy. Yeah, navigating the system can certainly feel exhausting. It involves advocacy and availability. So thanks for your input on that. Again, feel free to add anything into the chat about the topics as we go. Now let's go over the goals of the session. Today, you'll learn strategies for navigating complex systems, whether that's education, mental health, child welfare, or other community supports many of us interact with. You'll explore how to build effective partnerships, because advocacy is more powerful when it's collaborative. You'll look at ways to empower others, whether that's another caregiver, youth, or professional, to step into their own advocacy journey. And finally, you'll hear directly from our two guests with lived experience who've done this work, navigating systems, building bridges, and using their stories to drive change. Our hope is that you leave today with an introduction to some new tools, a fresh perspective, and most importantly, some reassurance that you're not doing this work alone. Let me tell you a little bit about ACMH. ACMH is Michigan's statewide nonprofit family-run organization supporting families of children and youth with mental health challenges. We were founded back in 1989 by two determined moms who didn't want other families to feel alone in their journey. They believed families deserved both a voice and real support, and that's still our mission today. This year actually marks 35 years since ACMH was founded. That's a long time. It's a great history. And it began as a response to a personal struggle and became something much bigger, a trusted, family-driven hub for education, advocacy, connection, and hope. Today, we work across Michigan to ensure that youth and families have access to services, support, and connection, whether that's through our community events, our statewide trainings, peer support certification, or direct navigation support. And we're deeply guided by lived experience, and that's reflected through our two advisory groups, our Parent Advisory Committee and our Youth Advisory Committee. Their voices don't just show up in our materials, they help shape everything we do, including sessions like this one. In fact, this webinar series was developed in partnership with our PAC, and today's session was shaped by their ideas and input. We also train youth peer support specialists and parent support partners, offering workshops, provide referrals, and work to improve systems through advocacy, because when families, schools, and providers and communities work together, we know kids thrive. ACMH is supported through MDHHS and SAMHSA. We also receive private donations. We do some fundraising, and we also have many affiliations and partnerships, so we can keep making sure youth and families get the support they need. And at the heart of all of this is advocacy, sharing lived experience to raise awareness, protect funding, shape policies, and ensure services stay family-driven and youth-guided. Because the most powerful change happens when family and youth use their voice. So let's take a moment and ground ourselves in what we mean when we say systems. I know you're all familiar with this or should have some familiarity with this, but When we talk about systems, we're really referring to large organized structures like education, mental health, child welfare, juvenile justice, and other public or community-based services that many of us interact with, sometimes all at once. And these systems are made up of people, policies, processes, and procedures. And as many of us know, they can be confusing, overwhelming, exhausting, and even intimidating, especially when you're trying to get support for a youth in crises or with complex needs. Advocating at the systems level isn't just about knowing the rules. It's about influence, persistence, and clarity. It's about learning how the system works so you can challenge what's not working and help create something better. And just as important, there's something called a system of care, which is the ideal we strive for. A system of care is a spectrum of effective community-based services and supports for children and youth with at risk for mental health or other challenges and their families, that's organized into a coordinated network and builds meaningful partnerships with families and youth, and addresses their cultural and linguistic needs in order to help them function better at home, in school, in the community, and throughout life. Now that's a mouthful, but it is a spectrum of community-based services and supports for our children. It is a beautiful vision, but we all know it's not always the reality. That's why your voice and your story and your advocacy is so crucial. Understanding systemic barriers. I have a question for you, and you can answer in the chat. What's one system out of the ones that I just described? What's one system you've struggled to navigate? What's one system you've struggled to navigate? Before we talk about barriers in a general sense, let's bring this close to home. Is there one system you've struggled to navigate? Education, thank you. Yeah, that's a big one. Our children spend so much of their time and lives in the school environment. That's a pretty hefty system to navigate for sure. Before we move on, go right ahead and add anything you want into the chat. I have another prompt for you here. I want you to complete the sentence with your thoughts. Lived experience is essential in identifying and challenging these barriers because, and Katila added CMH, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, forgive me. CMH is a system that is not very easy to navigate. That's correct. Yeah, I agree. All right, so again, if you want to finish this sentence, feel free to add that in the chat. Lived experience is essential in identifying and challenging these barriers because, why is it important to have lived experience in identifying and challenging these barriers? It's because we're living it. We know what the barriers are. Not everyone would know that unless they were actually going through it themselves, right? So then to say lived experience is essential in identifying and challenging these barriers because it matters. It helps systems better understand where they fall short and what's needed to do better. So what I'm describing here, these are real ongoing systemic challenges. Here's some of the most common barriers that we hear about. Access. Services may not be available, affordable, or inclusive. We never want to assume that everyone has access, especially in rural or under-resourced communities. There's communication breakdowns. Families are often left out of the loop or not even given the full picture. And systems create hoops to jump through, like needing a diagnosis, a referral. I'm going through that right now with my son, or being told you don't qualify. There's also gaps in policy. So rules or eligibility criteria that overlook complex or unique family needs, because we are all unique. And one item that isn't on the screen is lack of trauma-informed care. This has bubbled up to the top as something that is core to removing barriers to a lot of the foundational pieces to getting success, maintaining success. It's a big one because providers or systems, when they're not trauma informed, it adds an entirely new layer or harm and disconnection for families who are already navigating difficult situations. Your lived experience brings these barriers into focus. And more importantly, it helps push systems towards real meaningful change. Let's talk about what it really means to build effective partnerships in advocacy. At its core, a partnership is built on shared goals, trust, and mutual respect. And when we think about advocacy, especially at the systems level, it's not something we do alone. Whether we're working with providers, schools, organizations, or policymakers, the way we build relationships can make all the difference. And what makes someone a strong partner? Being a strong partner is you're dependable. You're open to learning and honoring lived experience and recognizing what families and youth bring to the table isn't anecdotal, it's expertise. And that leads us to this quote: "Nothing about them without them." True collaboration means honoring the expertise of lived experience, and that's a reflection of the core principles of family-driven care. This is the heart of what we mean when we say family-driven or youth-guided. It's not about being consulted over a decision made. It's about being involved from the beginning. I will provide to you in the follow-up email a tip sheet for building strong relationships with providers. So in all of this, developing these partnerships, building these partnerships are how we move from fighting for to working with. And that's where real systems change starts. Okay, go back here. Let's go back. Okay. Advocacy is a team sport. Forgive me in that. Let's talk about why advocacy can't and shouldn't be done alone. It is a team sport. It can feel heavy when we try to do it all by ourselves, especially when we're pushing for services, support, or change. But when we invite others in, we build momentum in our community, and that makes our impact even stronger. Empowering others amplifies impact. Here are a few ways to bring others into the work. Sharing your story, be open about it. It helps others realize they're not alone and can inspire action. Co-creating solutions. It's not all on you. Partner with others to problem solve. Being a part of the solution is very effective. Offering encouragement and practical support. A small gesture can give someone the confidence to step in and speak up. And this quote captures that perfectly. If you want to go fast, go alone. That's something. But if you want to go far, go together. That's from New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. I really like that quote. And that's exactly what today is about, showing how we can go further when we go together. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and take a moment to introduce two incredible individuals who bring this work to life. Stop sharing. Get my, and I hope you cannot hear the kitty at my door going nuts. Okay, I'm honored to begin by introducing Gloria Treviño, a passionate advocate and valued member of our Parent Advisory Committee from Ingham County. And Gloria lives in Lansing with her teenage son and their dog and brings a deep well of lived experience, both personal and professional, to the work she does. Her journey has made her a powerful voice for accessibility, anti-ableism, mental health, trauma awareness, and disability rights. Her advocacy takes many forms. She currently serves as a parent mentor with the Family Center for Children and Youth with Special Health Care Needs and sits on the board of the Michigan Advocacy Program. Welcome, Gloria. And next, I'm so pleased to welcome back Melissa Snyder, who many of you may remember from our session on self-advocacy and empowerment. Melissa is a certified parent support partner with Integrated Services of Kalamazoo and a proud mom of four. She brings tremendous lived experience navigating systems to support her children's diverse mental health and developmental needs. Her advocacy is rooted in resilience, in healing, and a strong desire to make sure other families know they're not alone. We are incredibly lucky to have their voices and perspectives with us today. So with that, I will turn it over to one of you ladies. You want to start by introducing yourself and telling a little more about yourself and your journey?
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Like Diana said, my name is Gloria, and I am a passionate advocate for children, youth, and families with complex needs. And my journey began with having my son who has complex developmental disabilities, and he's taught me many things, two of them being how to navigate the systems and how important it is to have partnerships, genuine partnerships with a care team as you're building a care team. Professionally, as Diana said, I'm a therapeutic yoga teacher and I guide individuals, children and adults, through trauma sensitive somatic movement and sensory mindfulness, with the goal of helping them achieve mental well-being and doing a safe physical activity. And through both being a parent and a professional, the connection between inner world and how we interact with the systems around us has the importance is very clear. So on with like what we're talking about with the importance of building partnerships. Something that I experienced, the very first thing that I experienced with my son, very, very young, he was about 3, sort of having two systems, a school system and early on kind of pointing fingers and you go here, no, you go here, no, you go here. And it really delayed intervention when the healthcare team was saying intervention was so important, it was being delayed by other members of the of the team. So that was really difficult, and it took a lot of self-empowerment and will to learn about the systems myself. So I felt strong enough to address professionals who didn't seem to guide me in the right direction, to be able to essentially lead the team and build the team that I wanted for my son. And so that started pretty young, and luckily it's actually been pretty smooth. Professionally, what I see a lot of is I get referred I get clients referred to me by a lot of mental health professionals, clients who experience various mental health challenges, and how important it is for us to be on the same page, working toward the same goal for this one individual, so that in a therapy office and talk therapy, whatever they're doing, they're working on the goal from that perspective of that discipline. And then with me, we're working on the same goal, but from a different perspective, a different approach, and talking to the mental health providers and the parents and even the individuals. We find that the needle for progress and and positive movement forward, it moves so much further, so much faster when we are all together doing the same thing, kind of ticking off all the boxes. And so I really try to apply all of that, sort of leaning in and leaning on each system, kind of finding my person in the system that I trust, that I can rely on, that trusts me, for my clients and for my son.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you sharing your perspective and more about, the details of how you navigated all of this, and also, use that experience as your expertise in what you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I did want to, just as you listen to the guests, just think about any questions you may want to ask. Melissa, go ahead. We're ready.
My name's Melissa, and
Oh, can barely hear you.
you can barely hear me.
Okay, now we can hear you.
Okay. As Diana said, my name's Melissa, and first and foremost, I am a mom with four, I say teenagers, but really we're transitioning to young adults. My youngest one is 16. My oldest one is 21. That's when my journey really started, was about 21 years ago, with learning how to navigate systems. My oldest son was a preemie. He was born at 27 weeks. And that was pretty scary. So 20 years old, having this baby for the first time, all these health challenges and special needs and things that I had never even heard of. So for me, navigating the journey started when he was born. And I got a lot of flack for being a young parent and trying to navigate the healthcare system with a special needs child when you're young can be its own challenge. People would make me feel like I was inadequate or I wasn't smart enough to help make decisions. So for me, it really started with finding one nurse who didn't treat me that way. She respected me and she helped teach me what I needed to know. And she really recommended, like, hey, if you're having this problem or if you're concerned about this, this is the person that you want to talk to. And it kind of went from there. As a mom, I trusted her, so I took her advice and I talked to the next person. And then I found a person in the next system or the next area that didn't treat me poorly, that respected me, that listened to me. And that's kind of how I started navigating some of these systems. And eventually I got a family support partner or a parent support partner, depending on where you're at. And that's when my journey really changed, because that's when I figured out that I'm allowed to advocate for myself and for my kids, because I did good navigating up till that point, and it wasn't terrible, but I would run into a lot of where it was working, but I didn't feel like they really listened or necessarily respected what I said or pointed fingers like, nope, they should be the one to help or they should be the one to help. And I just kind of went with it because I didn't know any better. And then when I got my parent support partner, who is fantastic, I'm so sad she finally retired. She was the one that really encouraged me that it's okay to speak up and to set boundaries with providers and for partners in these systems. It's okay to ask questions. So if there's something you don't know and you want to learn more about, don't be afraid to speak up and ask. Or if you don't like how you're being treated or feel like someone's not listening to you, it's okay to ask for a different opinion or ask for a different provider until you find people that you trust, that you feel are on the same page and want to work towards the same goal as you. Because ultimately, as a parent, or if you're supporting parents, parents know their family better than anybody. Now, they seek help, obviously, because they're not experts in every area, but they know what will and won't work for their kids and their family. So it's super important to help support families or your own children as they are going through these systems. One of the things that I do now is obviously family support or parent support. And I love that because I get to go in and support these families going through some of the same journeys that I've been through. And sometimes they just need someone to tell them it's okay to speak up. It's okay to ask these questions. It's okay to start small, start where you're comfortable. And I love just letting them know that they're not alone, that they don't have to go through these journeys. And it's all about finding your people, right? So you just have to ask those questions, set those boundaries, start where you're comfortable, be willing to learn and take advice. And if it's not working, don't be afraid to say so.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for sharing the personal detail of that, being a young mom and having to navigate all of that, and then sort of like build the confidence to get to where you are today, where now you're helping others. That's just incredible. And what really resonated with me is that feeling of you can't ask a question, or you feel like you cannot, you know, disagree with a provider or others. That's what happened with me. A lot of times I would just be like, well, it's the doctor. I can't say anything. The doctor knows, that kind of stuff when my gut was telling me something else. So I really appreciate you bringing that part up. We don't have any questions in the chat right now, but I do have some questions prepared just to get the conversation going. And, again, feel free to add anything into the chat. So I have some questions set up for either one of you could take, and then I have some specific questions that I could ask you individually. So let me start with for both or either. Let's see. What does it mean to you to be heard in a system that often feels overwhelming or closed off? And I'll let you two decide, whoever wants to take that, and you both can respond if you want. What does it mean to you to be heard in a system that often feels overwhelming or closed off?
For me, I feel heard when someone kind of communicates back. Communication is key, right? So if I'm telling them what I think or what I need for me, for my kids, and they're letting me know, okay, this is what I hear you asking for, this is what I hear you saying. And then having that dialogue, that communication of, we can make that happen, or we can't make that happen, and this is why, or we can maybe do this, which isn't exactly what you were saying, but we think this might work and why. So just that communication piece, so I know that they are listening and are hearing what I'm saying and either offering that in response or giving me solutions or however that might be.
So yeah, having them sort of repeat back what you said. Helps you feel validated, and then moving on to the pieces. Sometimes it's just those little things make all the difference. Gloria, what do you think?
For me, when I know that a care provider has heard me, when I get the sense, or whether they say it or I'm just getting the sense that they recognize that very much like was shared earlier, that I am the professional, like I am the real professional. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
regardless of what's hanging on anybody's walls, I am the one who knows the holistic picture. You know what I mean? Like, each professional only knows a chunk. I am the one who is the absolute expert in my child. So
Mhm.
when they recognize that, and they can, whether they, actually explicitly say it, or they just give me that sense of that they trust me, and that they trust what I'm saying and what I'm saying he needs and whatever, then it's like, okay, they're on my team. Like, they're hearing me.
Got it. Yeah, so it's that the 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 recognition that you have the information, and not that, it's just assumed, or, they're at, yeah, okay. That's really good. That's powerful. That's very powerful. Courtney did put a question in the chat. So Courtney says, how did you find the services that might benefit your child, that they might qualify for? There's so many services out there that can help, but many parts are coming into this with no understanding of what to even ask for. This is so true. Thank you, Courtney. So parents, okay, got it.
So for me, I actually interviewed all of my son's like healthcare providers, because they do work for you.
Mhm.
Um, this a really important step to that is understanding how your insurance policy works, though, because obviously, like, codes, procedure codes, doctors have their own codes, the places have their own codes of whether or not they can be covered. So you want to be well versed in that to be able to switch. You know what I mean? If you don't like somebody, to be able to switch, you got to know that they're covered.
Mhm.
But that was a big one for me, is when I did find a service, um, getting in groups, like Facebook groups. It's just kind of, even if I'm not asking questions, if I just kind of searched that service, and I'm seeing like real feedback from real people, kind of quietly in a group, not just, out in the world, just quietly in a group, to get that kind of feedback, and essentially just to interview the care provider, like, straight away, of like, this is what I'm dealing with, this is my goals, these are the things, the values that are important to me in his care. And if we don't align, then,
Mhm.
move on to the next, which, it's a process, but it it was
Important
important.
process. Yeah. And how beneficial is that to have the opportunity to do that? Now, in private pay scenarios, I could see how, I mean, that still might be challenging, right? But especially in terms of any state funded programs, it might be a little more difficult, but I'm curious to find out. And I wanted to say the social media piece was pivotal for me, because they curate all the information, and you can just search by keyword, and you're going to find that, you just put one, and even if you post something, you post a question, it's like people come in, they swoop in to give answers, and and sometimes they'll even talk to you on the side to help guide you through it. So low-lying fruit, the social media piece, although you do want to be, always caution that, and tell people to just be aware and careful when doing things via social media. Melissa, what do you think? What are your
So
thoughts?
for me as a parent, especially being a young mom when I first started, I didn't know anything either. Like I had no idea who to reach out to. I had never even considered needing a pediatrician or anybody really for that matter, because I was like 20 and I had all these other things on my mind. So for me, it was just asking people like, who do you take your kids to? Like, why do you like them? Why do you not like them? And back then, the internet wasn't as big for stuff like that, like it is now. Now I do use the internet or social media for some of that stuff. But when I first started, it wasn't as big of a thing. And so I would ask people I know or people that I went to school with or like friends' parents, my mom, what do you look for when you are trying to find a doctor or a dentist or whatever it is that you're looking for? And then I built a really good relationship with the pediatrician that I decided to go with. And she was instrumental in helping me figure out what kind of services my kid might need. She didn't necessarily tell me which provider to work with or anything like that, but she would tell me like your kid is struggling with depression. You need to get hooked up with mental health services. I can make a referral for that. And you have some options. We can do, X, Y, or Z, or we can do it to all of them and see which one gets back to us first, So we did that. And then once we got to the place or connected to the service, then it was more of a, you know, asking the questions or seeing if they aligned with me, trusted me, respected me, because that was my biggest obstacle in the beginning was a lot of providers didn't respect me. And I think it's because I was young. So they acted like I didn't know anything or couldn't be the one that knew what was going on. And they treated me like a kid, which I wasn't very old, but I was still the one in the leadership role as far as my family went. And finding those providers that looked past my age and treated me like a person, like an intelligent person that communicated with me, had that respect, were okay with me asking questions because I'm very inquisitive. Like, you want to try my kid on a medication? Well, why? What are the side effects? What's good about it? What's bad about it? Or is there an alternative? What if it doesn't work? I ask
Mhm.
those questions and I want somebody that's willing to answer them and not get impatient or act like it's just something I need to do because they said so.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh my gosh, all good stuff. So being persistent in not, if I'm gathering from this, like not giving up and not stopping at just one answer, going a little further, um, having others, reaching out to others, whether it's someone who's already done it, like, look at us all here. We have lived experience. We have knowledge that we can share with others so they don't have to go through some of the things that we went through, connecting people together, um, social media, all of these things are a benefit as opposed to just going it alone. And just being, that's one thing. It's hard to find that answer if you don't know what it's what you don't know what you should know, right? So digging, it took me a long time because I operated um pretty, alone in this with my son. And like I said, just reaching out with the social media groups changed things for me because then I found out about other things. It was just, I didn't have a clue. So just asking, there was some gatekeeping there where I wasn't getting the information that I wanted, like almost like, well, what is available for my son? Well, you could do this as opposed to, well, there's a lot of options, right? So it's just maybe even framing the question differently. And, can you tell me all what's available? And if you can't tell me, who can you connect me to that might be able to help me in this? Right. So to me, it's building relationships with people is at the core of it. So I really like that. And I hope that helped Courtney. If you have anything to add, feel free to do so. I hope that helped. We'll go ahead and move on. I'll come back to the chat. Let's see here. We shared a lot. You shared a lot about the power of partnership in your own experience, whether with a provider, a school, or another parent. What advice would you give to someone who is just like, dealing with some barriers, some lack of access to care, or just feeling like there's nothing out there for me right now, and there's nothing out there for my youth or the person I'm caregiving for? What advice would you give to them?
Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to ask questions. It's okay to start small if that's what you're comfortable with. If someone's not giving you the answers that you need, find someone else. Someone will help you. And if there truly is a resource that you think would be valuable that you just don't have in your community, speak up, because maybe you could be the person to bring that to your community or whatever it is that you're trying to get. We're really fortunate here in Kalamazoo, and we have a ton of resources available, but I know that's not the case for everyone. We try to help people in neighboring communities as well. And yeah, you just have to reach out. Someone will have advice. Someone will have, contacts, whether it's you getting a new service started in your area, or you getting on a panel and advocating for change, or however it is that you decide to go about that, whatever works for you. But don't give up, start small, ask questions, and just don't give up.
Give up. Yes, don't give up. Every day's a new day. That sounds like that's an obvious statement, but it is true. Things can change, and just don't give up. Gloria, did you want to add to that?
I'll just add to that, because there is a piece to not giving up that is where the exhaustion comes in, where the burnout comes in, and even the compassion fatigue. So just acknowledge that just because you're not going hard all day, every day, you know what I mean? Like that, like you're still not giving up, you're still doing it, but be mindful of also taking care of yourself and acknowledging that just because you weren't doing all the things today, it doesn't mean you gave up. Tomorrow you'll get to it. Today is a day of rest, So just
Right.
that add a piece of like, be gentle on yourself and not giving up, that it doesn't mean you have to go burn yourself out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, all good stuff. Well, I want to ask you each an individual question, and want to be mindful of time too. So I'll start with you, Gloria. So what role does, being the person that you are, and all that you've done with your business and everything and what you provide folks, what role does creativity or play have in helping people move through challenges or advocate more effectively?
Big, and it's a big part of what I advocate for play. Play, first of all, is the natural language of children, and the grown-up word for play is self-expression and creativity. So integrating that into the things that I do and the things that I advocate for, like just now, like talking about, you can have a day of rest. That could be, you know what I mean? Like that in and of itself can be something playful, whether it's, you know what I mean? Rest doesn't necessarily mean you're laying in your bed or laying on the couch. Rest could be just, you know, you go out and do something artistic or creative, or you dance, or you listen to a song, you know what I mean? Just something to kind of let go of. Um, but play and self-expression, it leads so much into like stress reduction and finding your voice, and you know, even just finding your voice and being brave enough to be playful at any age. um it that is like a stepping stool toward having a voice and the bravery to be a self advocate or an advocate for someone else, um and and be heard and take up space and not be worried about what someone else is going to think or say.
It's those things that get us through life, right? So among a lot of other things that have to do with self-care, don't forget to play. Everybody, when you leave here today, go play. Thank you, Gloria. Melissa, question for you, and we're getting close to time. I just have a few slides that I need to close with, but I want to ask you, since because of the work that you do, what do you wish professionals understood better about what families really go through behind the scenes?
There's many things that I wish that professionals considered or really understood. But I think the number one thing that I wish professionals really took into consideration, really understood, is that it's kind of a two-part thing. A is that the parents truly are the expert in their kid. Some people get that, some people don't. But also tied in with that is the exhaustion piece, right? And the burnout and the feeling overwhelmed. And a lot of professionals, when they see someone in that state, assume it's because they want to be non-cooperative or they don't want to participate, or you know, whatever that is. I advocate all the time, all the time. Um, you know, I don't think it's that parents don't want to listen to you as a professional, or they don't want to do better for themselves or their family. They're exhausted. They have reached this point and they need help. They're not trying to not do what you say. They just don't know how to do it. So instead of talking down on them, or, you know, whatever it is that you're doing, help them. Like, talk to them, tell them how they can do what you want them to do. Hook them up with peer supports or counseling or whatever it is, because so many parents have just reached that stage where they don't know what else to do and they don't have the energy to do it anymore. And it's not because they don't want to. They wouldn't be where they're at asking for help if they didn't want to. They just don't know how to do it anymore without help.
Very well said. It's so true, right? It's like, and I think that's where some of that trauma-informed care comes in, you know, instead of, you know, like, say, asking, how can I help you to do da 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 da? How can I help you to reach this goal? These types of things. Yeah, it's a good reminder too for people to have that. So thank you. Thank you both. I appreciate you. There's no other questions in the chat right now, but I do want to let folks know, if you want to get in touch with Gloria or Melissa, feel free to email me. Okay. If you can't find their contact information out there in the internet, just come to me. I will help facilitate that. So I'll go ahead and I'll remove the spotlights here and share my screen that I had such a hard time sharing before. All right. I'm getting the hang of Zoom. I really am. Okay, here we go. All right. So to close out here, I just have a few slides. Based on what we've just accomplished so far with being here together and having Melissa and Gloria join us, highlighting this is the most powerful part of advocacy, is empowering each other and empowering others as well. And this, it's just a great example of that. Their willingness to share their journeys, their insights, and the tools they've used, that's not just inspiring, but it's empowering. This work, it isn't just about raising your own voice, it's also about helping others discover theirs. So there's ways that you can do that by identifying and nurturing leadership in others, modeling effective advocacy and sharing tools, respect each advocate's pace, style, and comfort level. We do this in our everyday lives with each other. Why wouldn't we do it in these arenas? And finally, encourage shared ownership of change. Right? This isn't a one-man band, so to speak. It's about doing things together to amplify the impact. So therefore, we share ownership of any change that takes place. So inviting people into the process, because when people feel invested, they're more likely to stay engaged and step into leadership themselves. It's really how we build movements, not just moments, because lifting others as we rise together. So just want you to think about some key takeaways here. We'll skip the chat in lieu of time. But I do want you to think about what is one takeaway from today that you'll carry forward, and feel free to add that in the chat. And for others, what is one takeaway that you're going to carry forward in your own journey, either for yourself or someone you support? Feel free to drop that in the chat if you'd like to share. So key takeaways here are, you don't have to know every answer. What matters most is knowing how to ask the right questions and how to build relationships that can help guide the way. Navigating systems takes persistence. It's not something anyone should have to do alone, nor does it happen overnight. It's a process. It often takes collective effort to get real movement going. Partnership makes advocacy sustainable, right? We're doing it together. When we work together, when we share the load together, it prevents burnout and builds power. You don't have to carry everything by yourself. There's others out there that can help carry with you. So whether you're just beginning or you've been doing this work for years, I hope something today reminded you that your voice matters, and the advocacy is most powerful when we lift each other up. I always include these resources, and you will have the slide deck to refer to these. These are resources nationally as well as in Michigan. And those are ones I would dig into each one of these. If you're not aware of them, maybe you'll learn something new. And then I also have some global resources. And again, the materials and conference information, all of this. Oh, the conference, we had our conference was May 21st. So that's no longer applicable, but we will have a conference coming up in September. So watch for information about that. I'm going to follow up with the slide deck, handouts, recording. And if you want the certificate of completion, please let me know. And then I do have to take the last 30 seconds to share with you. We, the Parent Advisory Committee, an Art Initiative Committee through the Parent Advisory Committee, which Courtney is on, we will host a youth art initiative this year. And the theme is My Inner World. And on this slide, there's a QR code that you can complete a form, and you'll stay on the contact list so you can get updates about it. So this is really about, inviting our young people to express their thoughts and their feelings and experiences around mental health through art. So we wanted to let you know about that. Again, we are in a rebrand process. So when you go to the website, it may look a little bit different than the slides I shared with you. You're not in the wrong place. And then here's our Parent Advisory Committee form that if you're interested, you could reach out this way, and I will reach out back to you. If you know a youth that might benefit from joining our Youth Advisory Committee, it's a great way to get involved. And learned some leadership skills when it comes to youth mental health and being a part of that group. And I just want to thank you for being a part of the series. As I said, you could join the Pack of the Yak, our fall conference, and just continue connecting with other advocates. And lastly, we have our evaluation, which I will also include the link in the follow-up email. I need your feedback. We use it for reporting purposes, as well as implementing any improvements or just making sure that we're providing what you need. And it's anonymous, so I will take a look at all the feedback when we're done, and we'll work to make those improvements. So thank you in advance for that. And thank you again for joining us. I appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of your day and a wonderful week ahead. And I look forward to staying in touch. Thank you.